Pavlo Kyrylenko, the head of the Donetsk Regional Military Administration, reported that on the night of September 20, the Russian military shelled Bakhmut, Siversk, Avdiivka and Vuhledarsk Hromadas. In Bakhmut, people may be under the rubble of a multi-story building. Around 1 in the morning, the enemy carried out an airstrike in Bakhmut. A high-rise building was hit. 3 entrances to the building collapsed. There may be 2 people under the rubble. Rescuers are working on the spot. Also on the territory of the Hromada, the night before, Hromove came under fire. 1 person was injured, Mr. Kyrylenko said. At least 2 residential buildings were destroyed by Russian shelling in Siversk. In Avdiivka and Bohoyavlenka, the extent of the destruction caused by the shelling is being established. Information about the dead and wounded has not been received. During September 19, the Russian military shelled populated areas of Donetsk region from aviation and rocket artillery. There are dead and injured civilians. This was reported by the press service of Donetsk region police. The enemy carried out 9 fire attacks on Avdiivka. The cities of Toretsk, Bakhmut, the villages of Dorozhny, Yelizavetivka, Hromove and Yakovlivka were also hit, the report says. The shelling destroyed and damaged 10 civilian objects, including 7 residential buildings, workshops of a cotton plant and a railway station. In Chasiv Yar, a school and 2 residential high-rise buildings were destroyed by shelling. Pavlo Kyrylenko, the head of Donetsk Regional Military Administration, reported that on September 19, Russian military shelling in Toretsk killed 1 person and 12 more residents of Donetsk region were injured. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion of the Russian Federation into Ukraine, 862 people have died in Donetsk region and 2,173 have been injured. A 64-year-old resident of Vovchansk, a retired Russian military officer, died as a result of Russian shelling on September 18. This was reported in the main department of the Kharkiv region police. Enemy fire came at a multi-story building. Employees of the police department number 1 of the Chuhuiv DPD immediately arrived at the scene, documented the fact of armed aggression of the Russian Federation and collected physical evidence. The message reads: Valentin Reznichenko, the head of the Regional Military Administration, announced that on the night of September 20, Russian troops shelled 3 Hromadas of Dnipropetrovsk region, namely Nikopol, Marhanets and Chervonogorivka, with Grad rocket launchers and heavy artillery. The settlements were hit 5 times. More than 100 shells were fired. Preliminarily, people are unharmed. On September 19, pyrotechnicians of Dnipropetrovsk region destroyed 2 modern munitions. This was reported by the State Emergency Service of Dnipropetrovsk region. Outside the village of Shevchenkove of the Apostolivska territorial Hromada in Krivorisky district, a modern projectile from the Uragan multiple rocket launcher was found. In addition, near the village of Pershotravneve of Pokrovsk territorial Hromada in Silnelnikivsky district, a warhead of a modern multiple rocket launcher Tornado S was found in the field. Munitions were destroyed by controlled detonation. Alexander Polyakov, the mayor of Nova Odessa, told Suspilne correspondents that on September 19, Russian troops launched a missile attack on the city of Nova Odessa in Mykolaiv region. Private houses, shopping stalls, a pharmacy and a store were damaged. According to the mayor, the hits happened around 4:10 a.m. 36 residential buildings were destroyed. As a result of the explosion, several dozen residential buildings were damaged in the city. Private entrepreneurs suffered, as did their stalls and shops, large stores located nearby. Alexander Polyakov said there are no injured or dead people. The Department of the National Police in Zaporizhia region on September 19 reported that as a result of the shelling of the urban settlement of Stepnohirsk by the Russians, a husband and wife, being local residents, received shrapnel wounds. Law enforcement officers and military doctors provided first aid to the victims. Then the couple was taken to the hospital. On September 19, during another Russian shelling, the couple ran for shelter, but they did not make it. The man sustained a shrapnel shrapnel wound to the chest and arm, and his wife suffered a leg injury and contusion. Due to continuous shelling, an ambulance could not go to Stepnohirsk, so the first aid was provided by military doctors and a local policeman, and then the wounded were taken to the hospital. Sri Lanka citizen Ain Karanathan Hanesamurthy calls his wife for the first time after his Russian captivity. The man says that he and 6 other friends of his came to Kupiansk in Kharkiv region to study and work. This was 3 weeks before the full-scale invasion, and after it, foreigners found themselves in occupation. In May, the Sri Lankans decided to walk to Kharkiv, but they were captured by the Russians, the man recalls.
I don't know why killing, I don't know. Anytime killing. Every morning, come here. Go, food.
Eating
Go, food. Anytime. Why problem, I don't know.
Sri Lankan Padhinajakan Dulijan says the Russians kept prisoners in the basement of the prison in Vovchansk. They were cleaners there.
Toilet 1 minute.
One time a day.
1 minute, 1 minute, 2 minutes.
One time a day.
One time 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 5 days after shower. Bath shower 2 minutes. 1 person. 1 person. Bath.
Dulijan says that before the counteroffensive of the armed forces of Ukraine, the Russians fled from Vovchansk and released the Sri Lankans. The foreigners went towards Kharkiv. That's how they met with the police. Currently, the former prisoners live in one of the rehabilitation centers of Kharkiv region, says Serhiy Bolvinov, the head of the police investigation department of Kharkiv region. We are currently investigating criminal proceedings in order to establish all the circumstances that took place with these foreigners. In addition to the announced investigative actions, we plan to conduct an inspection of the scene of the incident where exactly the foreigners were kept. Bolvinov says that the case will be investigated under the article of violation of the laws and customs of war. The police contacted the embassy of Sri Lanka, but the released men say that they want to stay in Ukraine as there is another war going on in their homeland, a civil one.